I will begin my reading. Oli Kaavi Kaiama. E moe e kahiki e. E ala e kahiki e. E humi I kamau. E ai I ka ai. E hopu kalima ka I ka laau. Aua pā ke I ke po'o mai makanu. Haavi Kaiama. Ilo ka moku e kahiki. Puni o kahiki e puni. E sleep over there. Sleep. E awake over there, awake. Fasten your mouth. Eat your food. Grab your weapon. I will strike upon your head, bring much tears. Give back the land that belongs to me. Shame, shame on you. That Oli is the story of Kamapua'a, who transforms into human form to vanquish the foreigner who steals his land. Much like today, we Kanaka and our supporters are in a position, we've reacquired the knowledge and the ike. We've honed and we've bettered and we've practiced our skill. And we fastened today's model toward the restoration of our Hawaiian kingdom and Hawaii's status as an independent state among the family of nations. My presentation today, this ha'iolelo, is meant to honor the ike and the wondrous accomplishments of our kings, Queen Lili'uokalani and our kupuna, and fulfill their unified expression to retain and restore Hawaii's independence and its lawful government. I neither consent or authorize the use or the co-opting of this ha'iolelo in any shape or form for any effort whose goal is the annexation of Hawaii to the United States. Onipa'a. 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 Aloha mai kākou. O wau ke ea moku Kaiama. It is my great honor and my great pleasure to be here today, moku o pi'ilani, and to be given the opportunity and again the great honor to present to the great people of Maui. I have to extend my mahalo and deep appreciation to Kalekoa, Kahel, Kahere, and Pi'imauna for their invitation, as well as Maui campus for hosting this event. Thank you very much. It is my deep honor. I wore this suit today because for me, it is today's model that I wear. And it is the model that allows me to go into the courts and make representations on behalf of our Hawaiian kingdom and our Hawaiian people and restoration of the Hawaiian government. That only for me was very much relevant for today. We are fortunate that in this age, we've reacquired the knowledge that has long been hidden from us. And that knowledge allows us and empowers us to move forward and start to claim what has rightfully belonged to us for ages and for centuries. For me, today is the time. And I've been fortunate that circumstances have allowed me to enter into the courts, provide this information to our judges in the courts, in my attempt to educate them and persuade them to do what is right. It has also been my kuleana that has fallen on me to go beyond the borders of the courts here in Hawaii when they fail to listen to the undisputed evidence and fail to acknowledge what is right and what is just, and to present this argument abroad in the international courts. And that's what I've been fortunate and honored to do. Speaking today, I know the topic is Americanization and war crimes. And I will speak briefly about how my work results in the Americanization and the bringing of war crimes against entities here in Hawaii, including the courts and the judges. But what I'd like to do more is to focus on our great people, and how with this knowledge we are empowered, and how we continue to move forward in our claim for restoration. As part of the presentation, I think it's being handed out right now. There's two documents that I've prepared, and I will go over them briefly. One of it is a document that I prepared in preparation for my trip to Alta, Norway, to participate in an indigenous conference. And what that document is, it provides an accurate accounting of the lawful status of Hawaii. It's not an entirely exhaustive accounting, but I would submit it's an accurate accounting. The other document that is being passed around is basically a press release that I provided to the Hawaii Hilo Tribune Herald in May of this year. And it is in response to an article that was presented, including representations made by the Hilo Police Department, that there were in fact no investigations being conducted on judges for the commission of war crimes. And this press release, of course, sought to refute that article and to tell the reporter why he provided a lack of information on how that is misleading the people here in Hawaii. Briefly, to start the topic, and I will say briefly because I would believe most of the people in attendance here are already quite familiar with the illegal overthrow and the events that transpired shortly after. Suffice it to say that as a result of the actions of our kings, starting with King Kamehameha III, Hawaii became an independent nation, an independent state among the family of nations by a legal proclamation dated in November of 1843, November 28, and that is more commonly referred to as the Anglo-Franco Proclamation. That is the document by where Great Britain and France acknowledged and agreed that Hawaii would be, from that point forward, considered an independent state. Since that time, as a result of the works of our kings and queens, Hawaii then entered into a number of treaties with other foreign countries up through, I believe, 1882, reaffirming Hawaii's position as an independent nation. Now, what you may not know, but what is abundantly clear and is undisputed, is that once independence is established and is affirmed under international law, that independence continues until there is evidence that that continuity or that independence has been extinguished. I can tell you that in the 3 years I've argued this before the courts, not once has anyone brought evidence that would indicate that Hawaii's continuity as an independent nation has ever been extinguished. And it is my assertion, my respectful assertion, that they cannot do so because it doesn't exist. The courts, in going into the courts, I have been asked by clients to present these courts, and it is, I'll be real quick about it, it's normally in the context of a civil action that is being brought against my client, seeking to drag them into court. Normally it's in the context of a foreclosure action, but it also applies in criminal actions or traffic actions as well. When the prosecutor tries to bring a person who's been charged with violations of traffic or other types of criminal violations, I've been retained by them to file what's called a motion to dismiss the complaint for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. And basically under the rules, that means that if the court has no lawful authority over that subject matter, whether it is foreclosure because the land here is land in the territory which belongs to the Kingdom of Hawaii. And that motion is to dismiss the complaint entirely. In doing so, I provide the courts with all the evidence which supports the argument, and again, comes to the undisputed conclusion that the Hawaiian Kingdom continues to exist, that the United States does not have lawful acquisition over the territory of Hawaii. And therefore, these courts are also unlawful and administering the wrong law. The proper law that continues to be administered or should be administered is the law of the Hawaiian Kingdom. I can tell you that in the circuit courts here throughout the islands, Maui, Kauai, and Hilo, I have not been successful in convincing these courts that my argument should prevail. Now, mind you, again, there has been no evidence to the contrary. Usually the attorneys for the other side will not even attempt to try to argue why I'm wrong, and nor will the courts normally provide any information as to why my argument is incorrect. Despite that, I run into the block. I am blocked because of what I would submit is more political and other types of pressures. I can tell you that in one case in Hilo, a judge said to me, and it is part of a transcript which I've submitted to the International Criminal Court, said to me, Mr. Kaiama, if I believe your arguments and I rule in your favor, then I'm committing suicide. You're saying that I have no lawful authority and the courts do not exist. He says, I can't do that. My response to the judge at that time was, Your Honor, while I understand the court's contemplation of the consequences of its decision, the court's contemplation of the consequences of its decision is beyond the court's authority. The court is required to rule on law and not on the consequences that result from its ruling on law. Again, as I mentioned earlier, to date, I have not yet persuaded any of these courts to do what is the right thing. That is essentially what I am seeking to do when I go into courts, is asking them to do what the right thing is once they've been given the information. Because they've not done the right things, on behalf of my clients, I have taken the additional steps by first filing protests and demands with the United States Pacific Command, alleging that the courts and the parties that have filed these complaints are committing violations of international law, that is the Geneva Convention, as well as U.S. law. The United States in 1996 adopted what's called Title 18, Section 2441, whereas a high contracting party to the Geneva Convention, so under that obligation to the Geneva Convention, they made the deprivation of a fair and regular trial a war crime or a felony under U.S. law. Again, why is it a deprivation of a fair and regular trial? No court here in Hawaii can grant my clients a fair and regular trial so long as they are administering the wrong law. So in administering Hawaii state law and not Hawaiian Kingdom law, they are, by legal definition, depriving my clients of a fair and regular trial, which is a violation of international law. So, that being the case, I have again submitted the protests to the U.S. Pacific Command. When they failed to respond, I took the next step on behalf of my clients, and I filed complaints with the International Criminal Court, as well as the Human Rights Division of the United Nations. On March 4th of last year, the International Criminal Court acknowledged my filings of the complaints and assigned docket numbers to my cases. Again, in September of this year, following up, I received confirmation that the international courts and my complaints are still pending before the ICC. Now, I have clients, and of course, this is something that's fairly new to me. This is not something that I ventured outside of Hawaii before to do this. So it is partly my education in doing this as well. In searching cases before the ICC and in addressing questions from my clients, I have found often that the ICC takes anywhere from 3 to 4 years before any tangible actions are taken, such as the issuance of bench warrants. That's the only thing I have to go on, and that's what I advise my clients. And my research indicates that it's not something that happens immediately. And I do advise them